If you want to follow along, I recommend this dbfiddle website. It's a free website and you don't even need to create an account. When you open the website, just click on SQL Server, that's the flavor of SQL that we're using for these videos, and make sure you choose AdventureWorks as the database. That will give you access to all of the same sample data that I'm using in these videos. Let's talk about two of my favorite SQL keywords, two of my favorite special words. They are top and distinct. Both of these words come straight after the select word and before the list of columns. We're going to see them being written in here. And the two of them do slightly different things, and they can actually be used together. So let's dive into how we're going to use these. Let's start with top. I mentioned that this comes immediately after select. We write top, and then we'll specify a number. This will say, just keep the top 3 rows in the output. So let's give this a run to see what we get. Here we go. It's only kept the top 3 rows. Remember, if we didn't have top 3, it would just show all of the rows. So we've just asked just to keep the top 3 with top. Now, one of the important things about top is that it's one of the last things to happen in a SQL query. For example, if we were to do an order by, let's say we order by the department ID, then we're going to order by the department ID first and then keep the top 3. So if I give this one a run, we just keep 1, 2, and 3. This is really important. Order by is going to be done before the top is. Just to really reiterate this, if we order by the department ID in descending order, what do you think the top 3 is going to be? It's going to be the bottom 3 of the left-hand side. Just to really show that the top really does come at the very end, let's also add in a where clause. So let's build this up. Let's say we want where the department ID is less than or equal to 10. And let's work this up in steps. So I'll comment out the order by, I'll get rid of the top for a moment. Let's do this piece by piece. What happens when we have just the where condition? Well, we're going to get 1 to 10, because we've specified that we only want 1 to 10. If we pop in the order by, we're going to get the same rows, but now they're in descending order, because I've asked for the department ID to be in descending order. And finally, now let's add the top 3. I run this all in one go. It only gives me the top 3 after it's done the where and the order by. So the top really only happens right at the very end. So what's the Excel equivalent of top? Well, there's 2 ways that I think about top in Excel. There's the first, I suppose, naive way. I think of it as just, let me just hide the rows underneath the top few that I care about. If I go back to ordering by department ID, you'll see that it's the same 3 rows. But there is another way that Excel implements top. If we filter a column, it has a top option. So let's say we filter by the top 3 here. What do you think we're going to get? We get 14, 15, and 16. So this is one way in which Excel and SQL might seem a little bit out of sync, but really what the top does in Excel is it always picks the top biggest numbers. And we saw in the order by video that biggest numbers, if we want the biggest numbers to be shown first, then we need to sort in descending order when we do our order by. So the top equivalent in SQL is really sort in descending order when it comes to numbers. So sorting by an ID and taking the top 3 of an ID, maybe it doesn't really make sense in Excel. It's more designed for sorting by aggregates and then picking the largest values that you see in those aggregates. But there's still this equivalence. So if you're used to using the top in Excel, the top filter in Excel, it translates quite naturally over to the SQL equivalent of top as well. The last thing that I'll mention is that different SQL flavors use different words to do this kind of limiting of rows. So in SQL Server, the SQL flavor that we're using in these videos, and quite a lot of other SQL flavors, they use top. The word top followed by the number after the select word. Other SQL flavors don't use top, they'll use limit instead. Now you see that this doesn't work for Microsoft SQL Server, but if you're using a SQL flavor that doesn't have top, it will have limit instead. So this is just an FYI if you plan on using a SQL flavor that isn't SQL Server, or at least one that does use top. How about distinct? How does distinct work? Well, like top, it goes just after select, but the distinct operation happens after the where, it happens after the order by, it happens after everything that top happens after, but top actually happens after distinct as well. Now, as Excel users, we should actually be really familiar with distinct, because distinct just does the remove duplicates option that we have in Excel. But if we go into the data tab, there is the remove duplicates option. That is all that distinct is doing. So let's see this in action. Let's do it in Excel first. And I'm just going to move my data into a new sheet just so that I don't mess up my existing data. Now, if I was to use the remove duplicates option on all of this data, what's going to happen? Well, there's no duplicates. Each row can be uniquely identified by the department ID. In fact, there's no duplicates in the names either. So what happens if we do the same thing in SQL? Since we did the remove duplicates on all 4 of the rows, let's also do it on all 4 of the rows in SQL. And for convenience, let's use the star, because we know that the star is only going to be the 4 rows. If I give this a run, we get exactly the same things on the left. SQL also understands that each of the individual rows can be uniquely identified by the department ID or even by the name. So the select duplicates or the distinct operation doesn't actually do anything to the entire table. But if we were to restrict this to something like the group name and the modified date, let's delete department ID and name. What happens if we were to do the remove duplicates with this subset of the data, this subset of the columns? Well, let's give it a go in Excel first. We're going to remove duplicates. We'll say that we do have headers. It's going to get rid of quite a lot of the rows, because quite a lot of the rows are repeated when we just think about group name and modified date. Let's do the same thing in SQL. I'm going to keep just group name and modified date. If I give this one a run, we get the same 6 rows. The order is slightly different. We've already seen that the order can change in SQL, but it's doing exactly the same operation as the remove duplicates option in Excel. This is particularly useful, at least in SQL, when you just want to see the unique values on a particular column. So if I want to know what are all the unique options, the unique values in the group name column, writing select distinct on that column name, it's a great way to see all of them all in one go. How about using top and distinct together? So we've already seen that we can write select top and then the number of rows that we want to see. We've also seen that we can write select distinct to get all of the distinct values, or in this case all the distinct values of a single column, or if we specify multiple columns, all the distinct rows, which is equivalent to the remove duplicates in Excel. How would we be able to use these together? Well, we simply write distinct and then top whatever. So if I take the distinct group names, I get these 6, and then if I take the top 3 from these 6, I'm just going to get these 3. Just to prove that both of these are happening after everything else, let's also just whack in a where clause. We'll see where the group name is not one of these, let's say inventory management. And let's also order by the group name in ascending order. Let's work this up. So I'll take the distinct and top 3 out for the moment. Just doing this part, the select group name, we get a nice long list of all of the values. If we add in the where condition, we then get a slightly smaller list of values. If we order by the group name, we then get all of these in order, but we still have duplicates. Then we can add in distinct to remove all of the duplicates from that. And finally, we can then add the top in just to keep the top few rows after doing everything except the top. To wrap up, we've seen that we can modify the select word, the select clause, by adding in top just to keep a certain number of rows. We can add distinct just to keep the distinct output after doing where and order by, and we've seen that we can combine the two of them to do both the distinct values and then keep the top ones after doing the distinct. And just as a reminder, select distinct is just like doing the remove duplicates in Excel, so we should be super familiar with select distinct. I hope you found this video useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.